Welcome to this Whole Life Action Hour. I am Ocean Robbins, your host. So happy for this conversation. I'm a dad as well, and we're here to talk a little bit about families and nutrition and how to implement a whole foods, plant-based lifestyle with kids, with spouses, with parents, with all the people in our lives that may not be fully on board for the journey, or may be on board for the journey but differently than us. As you may have noticed, not everybody thinks or acts or lives quite the way we would like them to all of the time. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And also included in the mix is raising kids, whether you have direct children or nieces or nephews or grandkids or just children in your life that you love. We're going to talk a little bit about how we can nurture the next generation for greater health and vitality. And we have the perfect person to do that with, Dr. David Bowman. David is a lifestyle medicine physician and pediatrician. He completed his undergraduate degree at Howard University, his medical degree at Indiana University, and a residency at Children's National in Washington, D.C. His career went on to focus on global health and HIV. He worked in Botswana, Nigeria, and Haiti. And then since his personal health transformation using lifestyle medicine and faith, he's been passionate and innovative in empowering healthcare providers and patients and churches and the general public about the power of lifestyle medicine to heal lives. Dr. Bowman directed the Student Health Center at Howard University for 2 years before joining the faculty in the Department of Pediatrics at Howard. He's earning his master's in nutritional sciences at Howard University so he can formalize his nutritional education, and he was elected to the board of directors of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and he is the incoming co-chair of the Health Equity Achieved by Lifestyle, or HEAL initiative with ACLM, or American College of Lifestyle Medicine. David, you're doing so much to uplift the health of some of the most marginalized and struggling communities and to uplift the health of children. Thank you and bless you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. It was funny when I went into pediatrics. I thought about, I don't want people to die, and that's the reason why I went into it. But as I'm doing lifestyle medicine, I see the impact of what we can do for children and families. And for sometimes it is the parents will change because of the kids, or the kids
Yes.
change because of the parents, or the kids suffer because of the parents. And so, or the parents can suffer because of the kids. And so it is a challenge, and it is one that I embrace and am looking forward to impacting. And it's really great when we see, lives turn around and for changes to be made on a child and family basis.
Yes, absolutely. Um, I just want to say, so everyone knows, today's interview is a project of Whole Life Club, which is Food Revolution Network's ongoing membership community. Some of the questions I'll bring to this interview come from our Whole Life Club members. Nothing you hear today is medical advice. We're sharing coaching and our own best insights, but of course, always consult with a qualified healthcare professional regarding your or your family's specific healthcare realities and needs. That said, you're going to learn a lot today. So, David, let me ask you a little bit here about your own story and your own journey, because I know you've been on
Sure.
quite a journey in your own life. And how has it
Yes.
brought you to lifestyle medicine?
Good question. So back in, so start at the beginning. So all the men in my family had obesity, especially central obesity, and high blood pressure, and a number of other metabolic problems. And but I was thin. I was athletic. That wasn't going to happen to me. And then when I took some pictures with my daughter, and I saw the gut, the Bowman gut, it was like, oh man, here it comes. I didn't think it was going to happen to me. And I recognized it came slowly, but it came surely. And so that was one of the eye-opening. When I had a picture of me and my daughter, it was like, wait a minute, oh God, no, not me. I was going to be immune to this. And when I ended up doing a Daniel fast, which is a spiritual fast, back in 2015. What happened in 2014, as you heard about the HIV stuff that I used to do, we did a great job of eliminating HIV in babies and children and eradicating it such that the pregnant women who do have HIV aren't getting it to their babies. Yay, it's fantastic. Awesome for public health, not good for job security. So I had to find something else to do. And they had, give me a 6 month notice. And I actually told them, I said, gosh, I feel like I'm being pushed into my new purpose. Not that I knew what the new purpose was, but I just felt like there was a new purpose for me. And then I did what's called a Daniel fast. It's based on the prophet Daniel in the Bible. He did a 21-day fast from meats and choice foods. And many churches around the country may do something similar. And so I chose to do it actually with a friend of mine. His name is Chris Broussard. He had a group with called King. And I did it with his group. And it's, essentially the contemporary way of doing it is no animal products at all. So no, pork, beef, animal products, no dairy, cheese, eggs, etc. No processed foods. So if you're going to do rice, you got to do brown rice. No chemicals, no preservatives, and no added sweeteners. And I did that fast spiritually. Like I'm trying to hear from God about my next thing in life. And I did the fast spiritually. And 5 days into it, I'm screaming. I can't stand it. I'm like, oh, I'm so bored of 5 days in a row of black beans, brown rice, mixed vegetables. And I was reminded this is a spiritual fast, not necessarily a lifestyle change. And I said, okay, that's right. Let me go pray about this. Then I remembered I was doing global health work, and I saw a lot of kids who are dying of malnutrition. And it hit me, Lord, forgive me for being ungrateful. Thank you, Lord, that I've never missed a meal because there wasn't food to eat. I've missed meals because I was too busy, but I never missed meals because there's no food to eat. So forgive me, Lord, for being ungrateful. Let me go ahead and finish this fast. And then a week and a half into it, I was like, wait a minute, I have to go to the bathroom again. I go twice a week on a good week. This is twice in the same day. This is not like me. This must be diarrhea. And I turned around and it wasn't diarrhea, it was a banana in there. I was like, wait, I don't do that. I do pebbles. I do pebbles once a week. And what in the world is this happening to my stool? And I back in 2006, I had to have surgery because I literally had anal leakage because I was strained so bad. I had an anal fistula, which is a little channel from your anus, from your rectum to your anus. And so I was literally walking around smelling like poop at the age of 35. And so how embarrassing was that? And so when I did this fast, it was like, oh my gosh, I feel phenomenal. I don't feel the indigestion. I don't feel the stomach pain. I don't feel I wasn't doing lactose, so I didn't feel the lactose intolerance. I'm like, what happened to me? And it got me that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, which is one of the scriptures in the Bible. But my lifestyle previously had promoted disease. And if I decided to put in, if I could consider myself instead of when I was 15, I put the wrong gas in my car one time, and the car didn't start because I put in leaded gas in an unleaded car. And so when I started putting in, the right fuel for the car, it worked. When I started right fuel for myself, the same thing happened. And I started feeling great. And I'm like, well, if I'm fearfully wonderfully made, I'm a Bentley. I'm not even a regular sedan. I'm a Bentley. If I'm a Bentley and I can't even put in regular fuel, certainly can't put in toxic fuel.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, if I put in premium fuel for my premium body, oh my gosh. And so the weight started coming off. I felt great, still feel great. And I feel better now than I did 10 years ago. And it's amazing because of the lifestyle changes that I've made.
Beautiful. I know that faith is a part of your journey as well. Can you speak to the role of faith, regardless of denomination,
Sure.
in lifestyle medicine and the relationship between the two?
So it's funny, the pillars of lifestyle medicine include plant-based nutrition, physical activity, stress management, adequate sleep, avoidance of risky substances, and positive social connections. And what I do, I kind of merge the positive social connections and the stress management and merge them into spirituality, or have spirituality kind of cover both. Spirituality as a way to relieve stress. So if I have a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose, a sense of that somehow, some way, this is going to work out for my benefit, even though right now it's difficult. That is one way to achieve stress management. And the other way is the group connection, so the positive social connection. So if I am worshiping together with other people, then or in a prayer group with other people, then that positive social connection is also another way that it fuels or is associated with lifestyle medicine. So what I do, I have a lifestyle med revolution, a business with my wife, and we put on Daniel fast, and we also incorporate daily prayer, weekday prayers. And as we talk to people about, oh man, this is so hard, I can't do it, we'll throw in scriptures that may uh, address what they're going through and saying, um, there's a scripture that says that you have self control. It might be a small muscle right now, but it's a muscle that you have, and you can tap into that spiritual strength to be able to make those lifestyle changes that may be very difficult to do when you're just thinking about your own flesh, your own um, abilities. If you say, gosh, if I can, as I like to say sometimes, God, I need you to smear your super on my natural, because my natural is not super.
Hmm.
And it's hard to make lifestyle changes, but if I can get transformed in my mind that I am now a healthy person who has health conditions, as opposed to I'm a person with health conditions trying to be healthy. No, I am a healthy person who still has some health conditions. Then it changes your mind that, well, if I'm a healthy person, what does a healthy person do?
Hmm.
Right? A healthy person takes on healthier lifestyle changes. And so I think that's kind of how I choose to do it. It's really having that strength and having that sense of purpose and understanding. In my case, when I said, "Gosh, if I am fearfully and wonderfully made, I shouldn't put in toxic stuff." And so those kind of things are really important to me. I do some work at churches and other things like that, where I speak at churches and men's groups and things of that nature.
Thank you. I was just reflecting on the old parable that your thoughts become your words, your words become your actions become your habits, and your habits become your destiny.
Mm,
And in a
mm,
sense, what you're describing, I think, is how consciousness, how we conceive of ourselves, how we hold ourselves, those are like our thoughts, right?
the
And out
thoughts.
of that comes what we do and how we live in so many ways. And it often does begin with intention, with purpose, with what's on the inside, which then eventually comes onto the outside. And I wonder, in that context, what do you think is the impact on a human psyche of knowingly eating junk food? Like, what is the
Mm,
message we're sending to our souls
mm,
when we do that?
mm, mm. It's interesting that you say that. There was a thought when you were talking that came to my mind. There's a biblical scripture in the book of Daniel that says, "The people that know their God shall be strong and shall do exploits," meaning that they'll do great things. And
Hmm.
so it's really knowing and then being and then doing. A lot of times what we do is we focus on doing, 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 doing. And we haven't focused on the being. Like, who are we? Who are we? Who are we trying to be in this world? If I am healthy, I do healthy things. If I am, um, even the other day, I had a person who, yeah, I'm a smoker, blah, blah, blah. I said, no, no, you are a non smoker who still smokes. And
Yeah.
that shift in mentality says that no, if you keep saying over and over again, I am a non-smoker, I am a non-smoker, but I'm smoking right now.
Hmm.
Then eventually, it may turn out that you're like, well, I'm a non-smoker. Why do I have a cigarette in my hand? I am a non-smoker. And so, but it's interesting when you talk about the psyche, because uh, I have one of the places I've worked before. Some of the people who were the most resistant to doing any lifestyle changes, and the ones who are eating the most junk food and the most processed meats and things of that nature, processed and animal products. They also happen to be the ones with the worst behavior and the worst attitudes. And if it never occurred to me that that was the case. And I was like, wait a minute. So maybe I know, for instance, the Geico study that was done by Neil Bernard
Hmm.
talked about not just the metabolic benefits that you get from changing your lifestyle over, but really the psychological benefits of changing over and how our food can lead to our mood.
Yeah.
And yeah, you are telling yourself something if you constantly give yourself junk food. We're saying, I don't necessarily, all I care about is my tongue.
Yeah.
My tongue is driving everything, and the rest of my body doesn't care. And what I try to tell people is that, that 15 minutes that that food is on your tongue is so fantastic. Oh, you
Hmm.
love that 15 minutes. It's fantastic. But that food stays in your body for 15 hours. So if it stays in your body for 15 hours and your tongue only saw 15 minutes of it, that means most of that time that that food's in your body, your brain is getting it, your
Yeah.
liver is getting it, your muscles are getting it, your pancreas is getting it, your joints are getting it. And let's focus on, if we had it sounds like this is what do you call it? Not a democracy, but where you have a dictator. Your tongue is a dictator.
Ah, yeah.
And it's not a democracy. If you got a chance to, you know, if your brain and your eyes and your stomach and your gut microbiome and all of them voted, and your joints and things like, if all of them voted as to what you should eat, we would eat a whole lot differently.
So true. I'm curious now if we can talk a little bit about kids, because that, of course, is a big focus for you.
Mhm.
And you know, a lot of parents are just trying to get their kids to eat something, you know, um, and but we also know that we're shaping our children and we're establishing habits and norms that may be with them for a lifetime. And if we get them addicted early to sugars or processed foods, it can be hard to recover. It's almost, I think of it like we have an immune system that develops over time, and kids get sick more because their immune systems are
Mhm.
still developing, and they don't really have an immune system for junk food. Like the checks and balances, the ability to get feedback loops are not available yet, especially at that age, if ever. So, we have a certain responsibility to protect them, but we also live in a toxic food culture. So, what are some of the nuances that you help families navigate? And how do you help families take good care of kids in this context?
Yeah, the first and easiest thing by far is at that 6 month visit when they start introducing other foods. Let's talk about what foods we're going to introduce. It is, if you can start at the beginning and the kid has never seen anything but breast milk or formula, and let's start at this visit right now to talk about which foods are we going to introduce.
Yeah.
Sometimes, though, it's actually too late. I had a 4-month-old child whose aunt, the mother and aunt were there. The aunt uh, admitted that she had been giving the kid oatmeal cream pie cookies, a 4-month-old. And then the mother said, "Ooh, Dr. Bowman's going to get you." And I looked at the mom. I said, "It should be you getting her. Not just like, oh, it's the doctor thinks it's bad. No, you should like not allow this kid to have this kind of
It's
food.
your child.
Right? It's your child. I mean, I'm here for 30 minutes or 15 minutes. Like that. That's it for
Yeah.
me. Um,
Right.
and you got the kid every single solitary day. And so it's at the 6-month-old visit, and I repeated at the 9-month-old visit. I repeated at the 12-month-old visit, and at the 15-month-old visit. Like, please, if we never introduce them to nuggets and fries, if they
Hmm.
never know about pizza and hot chips and corn chips and things like that, if they never know about that, if all they know about snacks are fruit,
Hmm.
and maybe some popcorn, and some air pop popcorn, um, or oil pop popcorn, like that's all that they know,
Yeah.
then you know it becomes second nature to them. But it hit me the other day that I was an older parent when I had my child, and I was already more mature, even though I wasn't living the plant based lifestyle at the time. I was more mature of an eater at that point in time than I was in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I had, when I got to understand, I'm dealing sometimes with teenage parents, I'm dealing with, young adult, in their early 20 parents, and they themselves are eating horribly. And so how are they going to eat healthy and try to have their kids eat this other way?
Yeah.
So today I literally talked to somebody who I said, listen, as much as, the kid actually was a newborn, but the kid had sickle cell disease.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, nutrition plays a role in sickle cell disease, but the kid can't, we can't just encourage green vegetables to help to give this kid dietary nitrate will help with the blood dilation, blood vessel dilation. That might help with pain. Like if you're not eating them,
Yeah.
and so you have, 6 months or so right now to start to shift your lifestyle to the point where you're eating more fruits and vegetables and staying away from the foods that you're not going to want your child to eat later.
Yeah.
So ideally, the first thing is to start early. The second thing is to, ideally we have the kids completely and totally shift 100% today. But if I can just get either one of two things, I've made a big, big impact. And
Yeah.
that's if I can get 5 fruits and vegetables a day, and that's essentially, or 4 to 5, that's essentially one per meal and one per snack or two per snack, then oh my gosh, we've done something major. Or if we can have half your plate be fruits and vegetables, then that's a win. And and it could be that the kid doesn't want to eat these particular vegetables. Okay, fine. Find ones that they will and give them the option and say, okay, well, we can't have corn and potatoes as your vegetables. You gotta have something else. You choose. You choose which ones, and try to rotate them in. It might be green beans today. It might be broccoli tomorrow. It may be um, carrots the next day. But just the kid can choose. Got to rotate them, but the kid can choose which vegetables and which fruits they want. And then if they're old enough, have them help to cook it. Well, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm jumping way ahead because I'm assuming that people are cooking from home. That's a whole nother story. And so it is, if the kids are eating at home, then have the kids help to prepare. I had
Mm-hmm.
my 4-year-old in there, eating broccoli and cutting it up and, not very carefully watching her with a knife, but,
Yeah.
just what happened, her help cook her breakfast back in the day. And that leads to better habits. And, but, it's another issue when you deal with, families who don't have, let me think, a family where the kid was overweight, 13 years old, hypertensive at 13, on
Mm-hmm.
medication for high blood pressure,
Yeah.
and but they don't eat. I mean, sorry, they don't eat at home. They have
Mm-hmm.
13 people in the house, and mom with her 2 kids, like if she cooks, she got to cook for 13. Yeah, she's gonna go out to eat,
Yeah.
and that becomes an issue where, okay, so what are you gonna go eat? And he kept eating foods that were, high salt value, and he ended up having a lot of, his salt intake was something like 4,000 milligrams of sodium a day. No wonder he's hypertensive. But
Yeah.
that led, that kind of had to deal with what life circumstances they had, their the social determinants of health, and as
Yeah.
I would call them, social influencers of health,
Yeah.
which are important.
It seems like sometimes the body can be somewhat more forgiving when people are younger, that can bounce back from injury faster and
Mhm.
illness faster. But we are seeing an epidemic of kids that are not healthy. I mean, obesity, even type 2 diabetes. You just mentioned, hypertension at 13 years old. So, in some ways, it's never too soon to start focusing on healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah. I have a number of kids. So technically, if I should see 100 kids before I see one kid whose BMI is at the 99th percentile, right? Only one of them should be at the 99, or I guess two, should
Yeah.
be at the 99th percentile. That's it. That should be just two. And it's like 20%. It is really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen kids as low as 9, 8, and this kid might actually have another metabolic problem. But I've seen kids as low as 8 having pre-diabetes
Hmm.
at 8.
Yeah.
And, a lot of them are overweight, but not all of them. Some of them are normal weight, but they eat terribly. And
Hmm.
I'm sorry, well, thank God for food. I appreciate the fact that we have food, but they're eating foods that are metabolically a problem.
Yeah.
And it is scary to have
Hmm.
those kind of health conditions at the age of 8 and 11 and 13, as opposed to having it when you're in your 50s or 60s.
Right.
It
Yeah.
can't be called adult onset diabetes anymore. It's a
Right.
shame.
And it affects their ability to develop their brains, their ability to learn in school. Their whole identity as a human is shaped by
Oh,
being in a body that is bogged down by pain and dysfunction.
correct.
Um, so, you know, in this context, let's suppose some of our listeners have family members, maybe not even their own kids, that are not eating super healthfully, and they want to be a positive influence, with whatever role they have. Do you have any advice on how to influence nieces and nephews and you know
Yeah.
friends and families that are not our own biologically in the same way, but maybe we love people a lot and we want to care for kids in our lives?
It's interesting you say that. In the past week, so I went to Houston, and I was there with my dad and my nieces and my siblings. And I looked around, and several of my family members are now plant based. And I was like, "Oh, well, look at this! This is kind of cool." And for New Year's Eve, I went to my crew, my group of friends. We hung out together, and of the different appetizers that were there, you know, one was meat based, and the rest of them were not. And I looked around, and I was like, "Wow, you know what? I see." Of the 6 women that were there, like 4 of them were plant based, and I'm like, "Well, I I took credit for that because I wait a minute, you guys started working that with me." Oh my gosh! So slowly but surely, helping to impact my circle in part because they see the change that I've done. So it's not necessarily me preaching to them or me condemning them or me telling them what they need to do and what they're doing wrong. In part, is the fact that they see me happier, healthier, stronger, and that in of itself is a testimony. And then it also is, if they come up and they talk about a health problem, I said, that health problem actually is related to our diet.
Hmm.
It's related to our lifestyle. It's related to inactivity. It's related to not getting enough sleep. It's related to these different things. And, you know, there's a fix to that. The thing that really gets people is understanding like this anti high blood pressure medication or this diabetes medication or this arthritis medication. Thank God for them. I'm glad they exist.
Hmm.
Don't get me wrong. But they're not treating the underlying reason as to why you have the problem. And so if you think about the fact that your lifestyle is the underlying reason why you have the problem, then lifestyle changes are the answer. So let's work on this. Let's encourage you to do this. Can you start to do some legumes instead of if you did your spaghetti, can you just do some lentils in that and do whole wheat instead of white? Can we make those kind of changes? Can we make some slight changes in your lifestyle where you're physically active? Let's all get together. Let's go for a walk. I didn't recognize my friends were going to go on a hike at 10 in the morning on New Year's Day. I wish I had known that, but I thought they're going to do that, and I was like, oh wow, you guys going on a hike? Okay, so that they're being physically active, and so just kind of getting your friends to do those fun things, and sometimes it's if you can bring them over to your house and you cook for them, or you provide food for them that is not just healthy, which is, okay, well, thanks for the salad, David. Not that,
Yeah.
but like really tasty. They're like, oh, this plant based thing isn't too bad, right? And then I think that they can start to change their ways. I think it's important. In fact, almost everywhere I go, if there's a potluck, I instead of saying, "Oh, I could bring a salad," no, I want to bring something. I go to at my job, we had a potluck, and I brought a chili,
Hmm.
and I didn't say it was a plant based chili, but it was just chili, and people loved it. And I was like, there wasn't any meat in it, and there wasn't any dairy in it, and really, yeah, I didn't even miss it. And that's kind of impact we can have is just letting them know, and it may be a slow go
Hmm.
depending on how sick they are. If they are just a little overweight and they have no health problems, the urgency that they may have might not be there, as
Right.
opposed to somebody who like literally every morning they have to like warm their legs up because they have so much arthritis that it hurts so bad,
Hmm.
or I can't get out of bed in the morning, or I'm always having constipation. Those people might be more right to change than those
Right.
people who don't have any symptoms yet.
Yeah, they say pain pushes and vision pulls, and the more pain people are in, the more pushed they are. And then other people are called forth by vision of what we want for our lives. And I think in the long run,
Mm.
vision is probably more sustainable because if you get out of pain, then you don't
Right,
have that motivation anymore. but
right.
but pain can create urgency. I mean, a person with their health has 1,000 dreams, they say, but a person without it's got just one dream.
Ooh, I love your sayings, man. You're
Yeah.
killing it, the sayings. I love it.
I'm curious if you have any tips. It's not an uncommon dynamic. Okay, mom or dad is like, "All right, kids, we're going plant based and we're going to eat healthy food," and the kids are like, "Boo!" you what do you have any tips for how to help a family navigate some of the changes, especially if there might be some picky eaters amongst
Yeah,
kids?
it's funny to talk about picky eaters. So again, that's one reason why I say let's start early, because kids don't know the difference. They only know what you've given them ever. So if you think about when a kid only eats nuggets and fries, I mean, was a kid just crying, 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 and crying, crying, crying? You couldn't figure out anything to satisfy them, and it's like, let me just try nuggets and fries, and that's what worked. No, it's because you were eating a nuggets and fries, and you gave the nuggets and fries. That is why the nuggets and fries worked. So the same thing can happen, that our taste buds will change after 30 days. And so if we can get them off of those foods, or even saying things like, let's just have it on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
All right, during the week, this is what we're going to have. And on the weekends, okay, then you can have a bag of chips. As opposed to having a bag of chips every day. We're going to say that for Saturday. And then on Sunday is when we're going to have the cake or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If you say, I'm not saying I'm taking these things away, but let's add in the vegetables. Let's add in the fruits. Let's add in maybe some smoothies.
Mm-hmm.
Let's add those things in first before necessarily taking away. Because you start taking things away, people feel like, like this drive has to, like, oh my gosh, I gotta have this thing that I'm missing. And it's like, well, okay, you can have that after you have your smoothie.
Right.
Or, and then, if you give them a big enough smoothie, they're too full to want the other thing. Or you just say, let's do it on the weekends, or let's do it on every third Thursday or whatever. Not saying I'm taking it away. I'm just saying that we're going to have it for party food.
Mm-hmm.
When we go to a party, if you want some pizza, have your pizza at the party. Don't go eating the salad at the party. If you go to a birthday party, don't get the salad. Like, have the pizza. It's time to celebrate. That's cool. But when it's not a birthday party and it's not a holiday, then we're going to eat foods that are going to sustain us. And so then
Mm-hmm.
you've now shifted from, one meal a week or two meals a week that are healthy to five
Mm-hmm.
or to seven in a week. And that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
If you just add in the good stuff. I think that that's probably the better way to do it is adding in the good stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, I went to a dinner one time. This is before I turned fully plant based. I remember it was my dad's birthday party, and I went to go to a restaurant, and I had shrimp and baked sweet potato and broccoli.
Hmm.
And I said, you know what? There's that book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Let me just, I don't know why it came to my mind at that point in time. I said, well, that book, one of the habits says put first things first. Hmm. So let me eat the broccoli first,
Hmm.
and let me eat the sweet potato next.
Hmm.
And then with what's left over in my stomach, eat the shrimp. And I got
Hmm.
halfway done with the shrimp. I was like, oh, dude, I can't have any more. Oh, I'm just so full. I'm just like, I'm stuffed. Because I put the first things in first. So even
Yeah.
the order in which you eat the food may make a difference. So if you have the vegetables first,
Yeah.
and start with water, do the vegetables next, and hopefully a healthier starch next, and lastly do if you're still doing meat, lastly do the meat. Then you're already kind of like, oh, I can do half the meat now.
Hmm.
Oh, so that's
Yeah.
another strategy people can use is the order in which you eat the food. And
Yeah. And how common is it that kids will raid the cupboards and grab snacks while mom's making dinner, and then they're not hungry for supper because they just ate a bunch of chips? And so, in that principle, one of the things that we learned with our kids was to have healthy snacks out. And, you know, I find that sometimes my kids won't just sit down to a healthy meal necessarily, but if I put, some chopped up veggies and hummus in front of them, they're
Mhm.
gone 20 minutes later, you know? Um, or I'll put some fruit chopped up, maybe with a little sprinkling of cinnamon on it,
Mm.
persimmons or apples or some berries or whatever, or some trail mix. These are things that just invariably seem to disappear around our house whenever they're put out. So those are things that, can be helpful in a nutritious diet. And a lot of kids, I think, are like to eat with their fingers. So
Mhm, mhm,
finger
mhm. Yeah,
foods like dipping veggies in hummus, or snacks of fruit chunks, things like that can be quite lovely, I think.
yeah.
Um,
I love. Well, I mean, fruit is. I mean, who doesn't like fruit? I mean, fruit
right.
is fantastic, and it's full of powerful antioxidants. I mean, I mean, it's really tasty and it's really yummy. In fact, though, it's funny. I did that for my 4-year-old daughter. I said, I don't think she'd had blueberries at this time, and I said, here's some blueberries, and she's like, I don't want them. I don't want those. And I was like, what do you mean you don't want them? I don't like blueberries. I said, I don't think you've ever had blueberries before. And she was like, and I said, so I said, do you know why blueberries are so great? And she said, no. I said, because they have these things called antioxidants. You ever heard of antioxidants before? And she said, no. And I said, she goes, what are they? And I said, it's like a little Pac-Man. They go around and they chew up all the things that are trying to make our bodies hurt and make our bodies sick. They kind of chew them up and eat them and make our bodies healthy. But because you don't want, the antioxidants, I'm gonna take these blueberries and I'm gonna eat them myself. No, I want antioxidants. I want the antioxidants. It worked. It worked. It was like, wow, that was easy. Um,
Nice.
And so, yeah, sometimes it works to kind of give them an that level instead of saying do it because you're supposed to. But
Right.
here's another thing that I haven't yet tried, but I really thought about that could really work in this day and age when kids are so addicted to their phones
Yeah.
that it's like, okay, once you've eaten X amount of fruits and vegetables, then you can get your phone.
Hmm.
Ooh, would that make a difference? Ooh,
Oh,
would that make a difference? Here's the
interesting.
Wi-Fi passcode once you eat, your, your trail mix or whatever. Like, oh my gosh, what a difference that would make.
You find out what the motivations are. No two people are identical. So learning what those are is part of the journey, right?
It is.
Okay, so I'm curious, from a nutritional standpoint, are there any particular considerations that you think are important nutritionally, specifically for children or adolescents, that some people miss? Supplements or nutrients that are of particular concern for growing bodies?
Yeah. So the whole country is fiber deficient. So fiber is number one. The whole country fiber deficient. Now, and I'm not talking about getting it in a supplement form. I'm talking about getting it in a dietary form. And so the most powerful ways are, shifting your carbs to whole grains would make a big difference in terms of that. And either adding legumes, your beans, chickpeas, lentils, or soy, either adding those or substituting those as your main source of protein, and having no other meats would be another way to do that. In terms of supplements, I do recommend a vitamin D for most people who are not out in the sun very often. Back in the day, I didn't need vitamin D. I was in the sun all the time, at least in the summertime, summer, winter, or summer, spring, and fall. But nowadays, absolutely recommend a vitamin D supplement. And if a kid is plant based, they would need some source of reliable B12. So whether it be in nutritional yeast, or whether that be in a multivitamin that's supplemented, if they are plant based, they need a B12 supplement. So those are essential. And really, if you're getting uh, fiber in your foods, that's going to help so many things. It's going to help kids' allergies. It's going to help kids with their cholesterol. That's going to help them with their gut health. It's going to help their microbiome. It's going to help their brain.
Mm-hmm.
If we feed our gut microbiome the right foods, i.e., fiber filled foods, we will have better brain health. And it's important also to think about what we need to avoid, because um, some of the problems that we have in this day and age of ADHD and other kind of things. Really kind of staying away from a lot of the processed foods and foods that you can't pronounce.
Yeah.
If you look at the label, like, just before you pick it up off the shelf, not even before in the house, but before you get it on the grocery store shelf, or the wherever you get your food from. It might not be the grocery store. Wherever you get your food from, just look at the back of the package, and see, are these the kind of things that I really want to be pushing into my children? Just like hopefully you're filtering and kind of monitoring what your kids are doing online. Just like you're hopefully monitoring your kids' friends. We really should monitor what we're putting in our kids' bodies, and saying, is this really, really going to be doing something good for my kid? And a lot of times, if you have to go and look it up and say, what is this little, for, you're like, oh, I don't want that for my kid. Right. So I think that's important too.
Yeah. Thank you. Um, David, you're on the board of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. What are some of the emerging trends or research in lifestyle medicine that you find most promising for the future of family health?
Wow. I really love being on the board of ACLM. It is really, really good. Some of the things that we're looking at are the ways in which we can get compensated. That's one of the biggest areas that are an issue, is how to get compensated. So what we're seeing a little bit more of are these things, is a payment plan called value-based care. Value-based care kind of shifts the way we look at medicine. I hate to say it this way. I really hate to say it this way because it sounds so bad. But people go to the doctor and they come in with one health problem at the age of 50, or to say two problems at the age of 50. And by seeing the same doctor for 10 years, and now they have four medical problems, and they're now on more drugs. So essentially, they're going in the wrong direction in terms of their health, but you keep paying your doctor over and over again, and you keep getting worse and worse. And it just doesn't make sense to pay your doctor if you're getting worse. If my car is getting worse and worse, at some more time I might change mechanics, right? And so we need to say, with value based care, we're starting to look at, how do we keep people healthy? as opposed to having people continue to get paid for, you know, me continuing to get worse in care. So
Right.
value-based care is one of the biggest areas. With the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, we're also looking at some of the strategic partnerships. So we are really good at lifestyle medicine. We know that if people follow the six pillars, we know that they'll
Hmm.
have tremendous health. But we also don't have the reach that some people have. And those people who have the certain reach may be doing so without, lifestyle medicine principles. And
Yep.
so we can merge our efforts and their efforts and can have some wonderful outcomes that'll be better than either of us doing it individually. And that also goes for, things like health equity. So there are programs that are, I would say, health equitous
Hmm.
programs that are out in the community, really touching lives, but they're not necessarily like thank God they're feeding them, right? But then you ask, what are they feeding them? And it's like, well, starvation is really bad for health. So thank God they're eating, but gosh, they may stay unhealthy, but they may not be able to work as much if they are unhealthy. And so if we can say, hey, let's work together on having healthier options, and we can work on talking about the healthier options, and you guys continue to work on the access issues, then we can have a wonderful partnership and again create things that are more fascinating and more amazing than either of us could do alone. So strategic partnerships are a big thing, and the value-based care is another really big thing that we're working on in American College of Lifestyle Medicine.
Yeah. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you for being a part of this movement that is changing the face of healthcare and health
Yes.
in our world. Um, the American Academy of Pediatrics recently put out a statement advising the avoidance of GMO foods for children, specifically because of concerns about glyphosate
Hmm.
residues. For those
Hmm.
who don't know, glyphosate is an herbicide. It's the primary active ingredient in Roundup, and it is sprayed on many crops, cereal crops, to dry them out as a desiccant before harvest. But most glyphosate use in the world today is on so-called Roundup Ready crops that have been genetically engineered to be resistant to herbicides, so that
Right.
as a weed killer, it's sprayed on the fields and it kills the weeds, but not the crops because they've been engineered to withstand it.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
genetic engineering and the use of these herbicides go hand in hand. So now we have unprecedented amounts of herbicide or a weed killer being sprayed on foods that are being eaten by human beings. It never used to happen before in this way because it would have killed them, but not anymore.
Right.
So genetic engineering is directly linked to large levels of glyphosate. What is your advice to caretakers of children relative to this statement? Um, and do you think it's cause for concern for those who maybe have the resources to be concerned? Now, not
Yes.
everyone has the luxury to choose organic or not organic, GMO or non GMO, but some of us do. What
Hmm.
should we do with that choice?
Yes. Great point. I'm glad you brought the question up. So the American Academy of Pediatrics, I think it was actually last month, maybe a few weeks ago, talked about glyphosates and their use in foods, the food supply. And I am in agreement that uh, there are dangers involved in having some of these foods being sprayed with toxic chemicals. There's what we call endocrine disruptors. That some of these pesticides can be where they can mess with our hormones and can mess with development of a child's brain. Because you think about it, a child's brain is really what we call plastic or has plasticity, but meaning that it's still shaping and still forming up to the age, at least at the age of 3 and beyond, earlier. And so the more of those things that they are, whatever they're getting up to the age of 3, really plays a big role in their future development. And so we want to make sure, oh, not to mention cancers. So there are a lot of things that are a concern about the glyphosates and other types of pesticides. And so uh, where there is a budget to do so, the most important ones to really go to organic with would be soy and corn. products. And so those would be the most important. I would also consider wheat kind of highly important as well, to get the organic, preferably organic and non-GMO. And it's interesting that you can do both. But to have both of those, have those products that we
Hmm.
consume to be organic if it's in the budget. Now, if it's not in the budget, that's a whole different story. I'd rather you eat, conventional kale than to not be able to have organic kale if you can't afford it. Then if that's a whole different story, that's a completely different story. My biggest concern is getting kids off nuggets, fries, and pizza. That's my biggest concern. But if it is in the budget, oh my goodness, how important it is to be able to put the right amount of food, right foods in our kids' bodies, and to
Hmm.
minimize the endocrine disruptors. If I can do anything to protect my kid from potentially having cancer, right? Oh my gosh. At that point in time, would I get upset if I knew that I could prevent my kid from having cancer? Is the extra $2, $5, $7 of a grocery bill, or $10 of a grocery bill, is going to be worth it for me? Absolutely. So, the cost is prohibitive for some. And there may be some foods where like, I'm going to prioritize a few things. Like, you know, berries are hard to wash off. So maybe if I'm going to do organic, I'm going to do berries in
Hmm.
terms of fruits, and maybe not do the bananas and not do the oranges because they have peels, right? So I might be less likely to do those as organic if I'm worried about budget. And if you think about it, if we take out of our grocery carts the foods that by themselves are not helpful and might be harmful themselves, i.e., hot dogs and pepperoni and sausage and things like that. We take that out of our grocery cart, then we may have a little bit more money to be able to afford some of the more organic compounds. So that to
Hmm.
me is where my focus would be, and even like things like oats. Oatmeal is so healthy, and thankfully oatmeal is not that expensive. So if you buy the
Hmm.
organic, it's not that expensive. As opposed to organic berries. Organic berries. So do the
Yeah.
organic. If you have to choose between the two, I do the organic oats, and then put some strawberries on there, even if they're not organic. Just rinse them off really
Yeah.
well. So that would be what I would suggest.
And for those who don't know, genetically engineered crops are primarily corn, soy, canola, cotton, and sugar beets. And that's the vast majority of what's consumed by humans. Cotton through cottonseed oil. Also, alfalfa is often genetically engineered, and so quite a bit of those crops are ending up as livestock feed. All of the alfalfa, most of the corn, most of the soy are going to livestock. Um, and the main exposure for humans is going to be soy oil, corn, all the corn products, most of them highly processed,
Mm-hmm.
um, and and then canola oil. Most of that's ending up in processed foods. So when you eat more natural, wholesome foods, you're eliminating the vast majority of your exposure to GMOs.
Exactly.
And if you can go non-GMO certified or organic certified, especially with the corn and the soy products, then you'll be getting away from almost all of it.
And it's
Those are some
hard.
kind of general principles. And by the way, anything that is certified organic is by definition non-GMO,
Correct.
along
You
with
know,
a whole lot of other good things.
it's interesting. It's hard. Like I used to love corn, love corn, and I've kind of almost given most of it up because it's not a lot of that that's organic. So it is a sacrifice that I've had to make by not doing, by just by the that because I don't grow my own vegetables. Ideally, we would. Ideally,
Yeah.
all of us would, right? And then that's why what's going into your food. But it has been tough to not get that corn on the cob. It is tough.
Well, good news. I don't think, I think almost all the corn on the cob is non GMO. So you should be
Okay,
pretty
good.
safe on that front.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you for letting me know that.
And not on the cob, but also like chopped kerneled corn in the freezer section. I think that's non GMO. Sweet corn is for the most part not genetically engineered. Most of the GMO corn is field corn that's made for high fructose corn syrup and
Nice.
cornstarch and refined
Right.
products and
Yes, that's
cattle
my
feed.
corn on the cob.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you
So
so
that's
much.
good news.
Yes, that's great.
Popcorn is also non-GMO, by the way.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, anyways, great. Well, David, fascinating conversation. And, I guess I just want to ask you, do you have any stories of kids that have inspired your passion for health?
Hmm. So I had a couple of them. One, I had a family of, let's see, a 3, 5, and 1 year old, and the mom herself was obese, slightly obese, not morbidly obese. And when I took the family history, I found out that the grandmother was 52, no, 54, and on 22 medications at 54. And I was like, man, mom, wow. I said,
Mm-hmm.
if we're not careful, you may have the same number of medications, but not even at 54, but maybe at 44.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're okay with that, then there's no need to change.
Mm-hmm.
If that doesn't concern you or bother you, then don't need to change. And then the 5 and 3 year olds were just running around the room, just constantly. I mean, you just could not keep up with them. And I thought maybe it's just because they're in a new environment and that's the problem. And I said, so mom, is this like this all the time or just here in the office? And she's like, it's like this every day. These kids are
Mm-hmm.
just fighting and arguing and going back and forth constantly. And I'm like, oh, I feel for you, mom. That just got to be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and oh, by the way, what I told her was the predictable and almost certain future of her health would be her mom's health. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, and this is a black family, and I said, what is the predictable and almost certain future of poorly behaving black kids in America?
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, oh my gosh. Oh, wow. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah.
And so I ended up seeing that I counseled her about what, to do and not do, etc. And they come back and she's 15 pounds lighter in 3 months and the kids are well behaved. And I was like, it worked. It worked. Oh my gosh. And that was so inspiring that it could happen. They can make those changes. And what she did, I mean, she didn't even make huge changes. Like she still was doing chicken nuggets, but she did it from home and she air fried them instead of, getting it from a takeout provider and who knows what they're cooking it in or how they're cooking it. So she's still doing some of that. She's added more vegetables and she um, cooked from home more than she did takeout foods. And it was amazing how quick those kids turned around.
Wow.
And the way I like to see it or say it is the kids are acting normally to an abnormal input.
Yeah.
So if you have an abnormal input, I expect abnormal outcomes. So if you see an abnormal outcome, there's nothing wrong with the kid necessarily. There's something wrong with the input. And so let's change that input such that we have the best chance for our kids, outliving us, being healthy, meeting up with whatever their God given potential would be. And let's have them have the joys, of childhood. We think we're taking their joy away by taking away some of these foods. And if they're going to be suffering from issues, they might say, "Oh, I love my childhood, but here I am at 20, and I'm all these medications, and I got all these health problems at 20, 25, and I got to inject myself with insulin or whatever because I'm already diabetic." And it's like, yeah, I had a good run, but now it's over. No, I want my kids to outlive me and to be healthier than me and to be smarter than me and to achieve higher than me. And to some extent, I got to put my foot down and say, no, I'm not going to do it the way your friends may do it. We're going to do this. This is the path we're going to walk. And yes, you can have some fun on occasion, on a weekend or what have you. But on a regular basis, no, we're going to be on point on a regular basis.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, David. Thank you for your passion for health, for love, for faith, for family, for helping us all live our best lives, and for your own inspirational story, and for your leadership in the lifestyle medicine movement. We've been talking here today with Dr. David Bowman, the incoming co-chair of the Health Equity Achieved by Lifestyle, or HEAL initiative in the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, also a board member of ACLM, pediatrician at Howard University, and inspiration to all of us. A lot of families are going to be healthier for decades to come, probably multiple generations to come, because of your love and your wisdom. David, thank you so much.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
When it comes to cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, heart disease, and other chronic illness, what really matters isn't how many books you read, how many webinars you attend, or how much you know. What really matters at the end of the day is what you eat and how you live. The science has given us what we need to know. Now it's time for action. It's time to implement and optimize your healthy lifestyle. It's time to get results. It's time to say goodbye to confusion and hello to clarity. It's time to say goodbye to bad habits and hello to good ones. It's time to fall in love with foods that love you back. It's time to join a community that will support you in achieving your goals. It's time for Whole Life Club.